What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actresses comes face to face with a talk show host who refuses to back away from controversy? What you're about to witness is the moment Joy Behar pushed things too far, creating an on-air confrontation that left producers scrambling and viewers at home completely stunned. This is the story of how a simple interview spiraled into television chaos, and why Jodie Foster's response changed everything. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about what's coming. Trust me, you're going to want to share your thoughts on this one. The tension was already thick in the studio as Jodie Foster settled into the guest chair across from Joy Behar. The cameras were rolling, the audience was packed, and what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview was about to become anything but routine. Foster had come on the show to discuss her latest directorial project, a deeply personal film about family trauma and redemption. But Joy had other plans, so Joy began, leaning forward with that signature smile that never quite reached her eyes. Your new movie deals with some heavy themes: family dysfunction, abuse, generational trauma. It makes me wonder, are you drawing from personal experience here? Foster shifted slightly, maintaining her composure, though clearly caught off guard by the directness of the question. Well, Joy, artists draw from their experiences in some way, she replied. The story resonated with me because I think many families struggle with communication and understanding across generations. Right, Joy shot back. But I'm talking about your own family specifically. Her tone sharpened. Your relationship with your mother was complicated, wasn't it? The whole thing with John Hinckley, the way your mother handled your career as a child, that had to leave some scars. The studio audience grew noticeably quieter. Even Whoopi Goldberg, seated at the far end of the table, exchanged a concerned glance with Sarah Ann. This wasn't the direction anyone had expected the interview to take. Foster's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Joy, I appreciate your interest, she said carefully, but I'm here to talk about the film and the themes it explores. The characters in this story are fictional. And while all art comes from somewhere personal, I think it's more valuable to focus on what audiences can take away from it. Oh, come on, Joy interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. You can't hide behind the art when you're putting your own trauma on screen for everyone to see. I mean, your mother basically pushed you into Hollywood when you were just a kid. That's what child stars go through, right? And when that obsessed fan tried to kill a president to impress you, where was she then? The words landed like a slap. The cameras kept rolling, but the uncertainty was visible everywhere. This was live television, and things were spiraling fast. Foster's voice remained steady, but there was steel underneath it now. Joy, I think you're confusing an interview with an interrogation. My mother was a single parent doing her best to support 4 children. She protected me throughout my career and helped me make choices that allowed me to grow into the person I am today. Protected you? Joy let out a sharp laugh. Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like she threw you to the wolves and counted the money. And now you're making movies about family trauma. The connection seems pretty obvious to anyone paying attention. The other co-hosts were visibly uncomfortable now. Whoopi started to step in. Maybe we should. No, let me finish, Joy cut in, turning back to Foster with renewed intensity. I think our viewers deserve honesty. You've built this image of yourself as this private, dignified actress, but really, you're just another damaged child. Star who never dealt with her issues, and now you're projecting them onto your work and expecting everyone to celebrate it. That was the moment everything changed. Foster stood up slowly, removing her microphone with deliberate calm. The studio fell completely silent, the kind of silence that makes even the smallest sound feel amplified. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the room. Joy, I've been in this industry for over 50 years. I've worked with directors, actors, and journalists who understand the difference between curiosity and cruelty. What you're doing right now isn't journalism. It isn't entertainment. And it certainly isn't professional. Oh, so now I'm unprofessional? Joy snapped, her face flushing red. I'm asking the questions everyone else is too scared to ask. That's what real journalism looks like, Jody. Maybe you've been surrounded by yes-men for so long. You've forgotten what an actual interview feels like. Foster turned to face the camera directly, her Oscar-winning composure intact despite the chaos unfolding around her. To anyone watching who has survived trauma, who has built something meaningful from difficult experiences, don't let anyone reduce your story to their entertainment. Your journey belongs to you. Then she turned back to Joy, and her next words would echo across social media for weeks. And to you, Joy, Foster said, her voice calm but cutting. I hope someday you learn the difference between being provocative and being cruel. There's a reason people trust me with their stories, and there's a reason they're starting to question whether they can trust you with theirs. The cameras caught everything. Joy's expression flickered through confusion, anger, and something that almost looked like shame. Around the table, the other co-host sat frozen, unsure whether to step in or let the moment unfold. In the control room, producers debated whether to cut to commercial, but what was happening on set had become impossible to look away from. Joy recovered first. Her media instincts kicked in, but any sense of restraint had clearly disappeared. Trust you with their stories? She shot back, leaning into the sarcasm. Please. You've been hiding behind carefully polished answers and PR-trained responses for decades. I'm trying to have a real conversation here, but you're treating this like some kind of royal audience, like we're all supposed to bow down and toss you softball questions. Foster remained standing, one hand resting lightly on the back of her chair. By now, the power in the room had shifted completely. What began as a standard host and guest exchange now felt more like a courtroom. Foster, the composed defendant. Joy, the overzealous prosecutor who had lost all sense of proportion. Joy, Foster said, her tone carrying a warning anyone with common sense would have recognized. You're confusing real conversation with public humiliation. There's a difference between asking thoughtful questions about someone's work and trying to psychoanalyze their entire life story for entertainment. Entertainment? Joy snapped, her voice rising. This is a talk show, Jody. Entertainment is literally what we do here. But apparently you think you're above all that now. Too good to engage with the same people who watch this show and buy tickets to your movies. Whoopi finally tried to step in, attempting to restore some control to the conversation, but Joy cut her off again. No, Whoopi. I think the audience deserves to see what happens when someone comes on this show acting like they're better than us, like their pain is somehow more sacred than everyone else's. The camera zoomed in on Foster's face. Catching the moment her patience finally gave out. Her expression didn't change dramatically, but something behind her eyes did. A line had been crossed, and she had made up her mind. You want to know about pain, Joy? Foster asked, her voice still level, but heavier now. Real pain isn't something you parade around for ratings. It's not a talking point. It's not a gotcha moment. It's the thing that shapes you quietly. It teaches you empathy. It teaches you how to be careful with other people's hearts. Joy rolled her eyes. Oh, spare me the lecture. You're sitting there acting wise and wounded, but at the end of the day, you're just another actress selling a product. The only difference is that your product happens to be built on your childhood trauma. Don't get mad at me for pointing out the obvious. Sarah Ann shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly trying to pull the conversation back from the edge. Maybe we could talk about the technical side of directing. Sarah, please, Joy interrupted sharply. The adults are talking here. Jody came on this show to promote a movie that's obviously autobiographical, and now she wants to pretend that asking about it is somehow crossing a line. That's not how this works. Foster stepped closer to the table, and suddenly her presence seemed to fill the entire studio. You're right about one thing, Joy, she said. This isn't how it works. Professional interviews, respectful conversation, basic human decency, none of that seems to work for you. So let me try something different. The studio fell into total silence. Even crew members moving quietly in the background stopped what they were doing. Every eye in the room was locked on Foster. I've been coming on talk shows since I was 13 years old, she continued, her voice growing stronger with every word. I've answered thousands of questions about my life, my work, and my choices. I've dealt with intrusive paparazzi, tabloid speculation, and people who thought my privacy belonged to them. But never, not once in 5 decades of public life have I confused cruelty for courage, or humiliation for honesty. She let the words hang in the air, and that, she said, staring directly at Joy, is exactly what you're doing now. Encountered someone who seemed to take such genuine pleasure in trying to hurt another person on live television. For once, Joy had no immediate response. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. You keep talking about real conversation, Foster continued, pressing forward while the studio remained frozen around her. But real conversation requires respect. It requires listening. It requires seeing the person sitting across from you as more than just content for your show. She took a measured breath, never taking her eyes off Joy. What you're doing isn't conversation. It's performance. And the performance is cruelty. That finally jolted Joy back into action, but her response only made the hole she dug for herself even deeper. Oh, so now I'm cruel because I ask hard questions? Joy snapped. Because I don't treat celebrities like they're made of glass? Sorry if I burst your bubble, Jody, but this is the real world. People are going to have opinions about your life whether you like it or not. Having opinions and weaponizing someone's personal history for television drama are two very different things, Foster replied. And the fact that you can't see the difference explains a lot about why this show has become what it has. The comment landed like a physical blow. Joy's face flushed red, and in that instant, you could see the exact moment she gave up any remaining pretense of professionalism. What this show has become. Joy repeated, her voice climbing dangerously close to a shout. This show has been successful for over 25 years. We've interviewed presidents, Nobel Prize winners, and some of the biggest celebrities in the world. And now some actress who hasn't had a hit movie in a decade is going to lecture me about television? The insult hung in the air like smoke. Everyone in the studio knew Joy had just made a catastrophic mistake. Foster's career spoke for itself, and trying to diminish her body of work wasn't just inaccurate, it was reckless. For the first time since the interview began, Foster smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. You know what, Joy? You're absolutely right, she said, her tone so calm it was almost unnerving. I haven't had a hit movie in a decade. I've been too busy directing films that matter, working with actors who take their craft seriously, and building a body of work I'm proud of. Her expression hardened. And no, I'm not used to this kind of treatment. In my world, people come prepared. They treat each other with basic respect. They understand that their job is to serve the audience, not their own ego. My ego? Joy shot back. Now she stood too, abandoning her host chair and stepping into the open space between the table and Foster. You're the one who walked onto my set, acting like you're too good to answer simple questions. About your own movie. I answered your questions. Joy, Foster replied without hesitation. I spoke about the film's themes, about family healing, about the universality of trauma and recovery. But that wasn't enough for you. You wanted blood. You wanted me to break down and confess to a narrative you'd already written about my life. The two women now stood face to face in the center of the studio. Every word and every micro-expression captured by cameras from every angle. Around them, the other co-hosts looked like they were watching a collision in slow motion, wanting to intervene, but unable to find a way in without making the situation even worse. You want to know what I wanted? Joy's voice now carried a note of desperation, as if part of her finally understood how badly this was going, but couldn't stop herself from making it worse. I wanted honesty. I wanted someone to admit that Hollywood is built on damaged people selling their pain to audiences who eat it up. I wanted you to stop pretending you're above all of it. What came next would become the most quoted line of the entire exchange. "Joy," Foster said, her voice slicing through the tension with surgical precision. "The difference between us is that I've never pretended to be above anything. I've acknowledged my struggles. I've learned from them. I've used them to create something meaningful." She paused, just long enough for the silence to sharpen. You, on the other hand, are using other people's struggles as weapons, and you're doing it because you think it makes good television. That isn't honesty. It's exploitation. The words hit with devastating force. Joy's expression flickered through anger, confusion, defiance, and something else. Something almost like the reluctant recognition of truth. "Exploitation?" she repeated, her voice cracking ever so slightly. "I've spent my whole career giving people a platform to tell their stories. I've fought for women's rights, for social justice, for political accountability. Don't you dare stand there and lecture me about exploitation." "Then why?" Foster asked, taking another step forward. "Why are you so determined to tear me down instead of building something up? Why is your first instinct to hurt instead of help? If you really care about social justice, shouldn't this platform be used to discuss the real issues this film raises instead of turning my personal life into a spectacle?" For the first time since the interview began, Joy looked genuinely shaken. The question lingered between them, and viewers could see her searching for an answer that wouldn't simply prove Foster's point. Whoopi seized the opening, trying to regain some control. "Maybe we should all take a breath here." "No," Foster said, gently but firmly cutting in. "I think Joy wanted a real conversation, and I think she deserves the chance to finish it." Then she turned back to her. "Joy, why are you really angry? What is this actually about?" There was no malice in the question. If anything, it sounded almost therapeutic, and that may have been exactly why it broke through. "You want to know what this is about?" Joy's voice had gone quieter now, but it carried a different kind of intensity. "It's about watching people like you coast through life on talent and privilege, while the rest of us have to fight for every scrap of attention. It's about sitting here day after day entertaining housewives and retirees while actors like you get to make important art and act like you're saving the world." It was the most honest thing she had said all interview, and it also exposed the bitterness underneath everything. Foster's expression softened slightly, as though she finally understood what she was really dealing with. "Joy, I understand what it feels like to be undervalued," she said. "I understand the frustration of working hard and feeling like it goes unnoticed. But taking that frustration out on your guests isn't going to solve anything." Joy gave a humorless laugh. "Like you're ever going to work with me again." "I don't know," Foster replied honestly. "That depends on whether you learn from this moment or whether you double down on the behavior that created it." Joy glanced around the studio, seeming to notice for the first time just how silent everything had become. The audience wasn't reacting like this was entertainment anymore. There was no laughter, no applause, No gasps of excitement, only the uneasy fascination of watching someone unravel in real time. "You really think you're better than this show," Joy said. But the accusation had lost its edge. "Better than this format. Better than these questions. Better than me." "I don't think I'm better than anyone," Foster answered. "I think I deserve basic respect just like you do. Just like everyone in this audience does. The difference is that I'm not willing to trade that respect for ratings, for drama, or for whatever it is you think you're accomplishing here." Sarah Ann finally found the courage to step in. "Maybe we could talk about the positive side of the film, the hope it offers families dealing with." "Stop," Joy snapped, turning toward her colleague. "Just stop trying to fix this. You all sit here every day nodding along with whatever guests want to say, never pushing back, never asking the real questions. At least I'm trying to do actual journalism here. Is that what you call this?" Foster asked. There was no mockery in her voice, just a kind of clinical curiosity that made the question hit even harder, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're having a public breakdown and using me as your emotional punching bag. The line landed in the silence like a dropped stone. Joy opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. Opened it again. Then, for the first time all afternoon, she seemed to deflate. "You know what?" she said at last, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm having a breakdown. Maybe I'm tired of pretending. That what we do here matters when people like you make it so clear that you think you're slumming it just by showing up." Foster's response came immediately, and it was softer than anyone expected. "Joy, what you do here can matter. This show reaches millions of people every day. You have the opportunity to educate, to inspire, to bring meaningful conversations to people who might not otherwise have access to them. But you can't do that if you're more interested in tearing people down than building them up." "Easy for you to say," Joy muttered as she sank back into her chair. "You get to choose your projects. Work with whoever you want. Make art on your own terms. I have to fill 5 hours of television every week with whoever walks through that door." "Then make it count," Foster said, her voice gentle but unwavering. "Make every interview matter. Ask questions that serve your audience, not your own frustration. Use your platform to elevate people instead of diminishing them." The studio had gone completely still now. Even the crew had stopped moving. Everyone in the room seemed to understand that they were witnessing something extraordinary, something none of them had expected when the segment began. Joy sat at the table staring down at her hands, while Foster remained standing in the center of the set. Finally, Joy looked up at the cameras, as if suddenly remembering that millions of people were watching this unfold live. "We'll be right back," she said quietly. Then, a little louder, "We need to go to commercial." But the director didn't cut away, whether it was confusion in the control room or a deliberate decision to let the moment breathe. The cameras kept rolling as Joy turned to Foster one last time. "I'm sorry," she said. And for the first time in the entire interview, it sounded completely genuine. "You didn't deserve this. None of this was about you. And I'm sorry you got caught in the crossfire of whatever this was." Foster nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying that, Joy, and for what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. Just try to find it without hurting other people along the way." With that, Foster picked up her purse and walked off the set, leaving Joy sitting alone at the table while Whoopi, Sarah, and the rest of the panel tried to figure out how to salvage what was left of the show. As the cameras finally cut to commercial, viewers were left with one unforgettable image: Joy Behar sitting in stunned silence, forced at last to confront the cost of her approach, not just to journalism, but to the people caught in its path. And maybe, for the first time in years, she was finally asking herself whether the entertainment value had ever been worth the human cost. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Was Joy Behar completely out of line, or was she simply doing her job as a tough interviewer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories about what really happens when the cameras are rolling, because sometimes the truth is even stranger and more dramatic than fiction.